Good morning. I'm Tim Full from the Donnie's Government Affairs Committee. I want to welcome the candidates and all of you to the 24th Annual Candidates Hour sponsored by the Developmental Disability Alliance of Western New York. Our moderator this morning is Al Vaughters from WIVB. I'd like to remind all of you to vote. Now I'm going to turn this over to Al.
Thanks, Tim. Good morning, everybody. How you doing? Doing great. All right. It's a Friday. For me, it's a payday. Welcome. And I have some priorities here that I am obligated. I guess I'll have to hold the microphone. Just a reminder, December 7th is the Legislative Family Breakfast that will be held at the Millennium Hotel in Cheektowaga. Attendees can ask for more information at the voter registration table right over here to your left and my right. Thank you very much, and it's nice to have you here for the Candidates Hour. It's my understanding this is your 24th Annual Candidates Hour, and there you go. And I just feel so honored that I've been asked to MC this for about the last 25 years. No, I'm just kidding. The candidates will have 3 minutes of uninterrupted time to address their issues, particularly those issues pertaining to the individuals and their families with developmental disabilities. Our timekeeper is Kara. Kara, come on, let them see you. Stand up there. That's Kara. She's our timekeeper. She's tough. I got to tell you, she's tough. Kara's the timekeeper. She has a stopwatch, and each candidate will get a sign displayed letting them know when they have 2 minutes left, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, and when time is up. And with that being said, we're going to start. And if Kara doesn't get your attention when time's up, I guess it's my job to kind of bring the hammer down. Our first speaker, and I will just tell you, as we mentioned, a lot of people have tight schedules, so we're going to take a couple of things here out of order just to make sure we accommodate everybody. Our first speaker today is Assemblyman Robin Schimminger, who is the incumbent from the New York State Assembly 140. Assemblyman Schimminger.
Nice one. Doesn't fit.
It's not fitting in there.
It's too big.
It's not fitting in there.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Only a Canisius grade.
Did that count against my time? Good morning. And first of all, thank you for all that you do. And thank you for the opportunity to share with you some of the things that we've accomplished up in Albany this year. We've made some progress, but our work is not done. This year we passed a bill that allows a business tax credit for companies which employ disabled persons. It passed both houses, but it awaits the approval of the governor. We also passed 2 bills that relate to services for people with autism, both of which have been signed into law. One will determine the cost to the state for early diagnosis and long-term treatment of autism spectrum disorder. The other establishes screening for children 3 and under as the best practice for screening and requires that protocols be regularly updated to ensure the most current standards of care are met. We provided $30 million for community-based service opportunities for individuals with developmental disabilities, and $5 million to assist caregivers who sacrifice so much for their loved ones. We were able to accomplish these things despite the threat of funding cuts from Washington. Now, I've received many letters and calls about the Be Fair to Direct Care movement. Thank you for raising awareness of the fact that direct service providers, DSPs, perform vital services day in and day out without which many of the most vulnerable citizens would not get the care that they need. DSPs are not sufficiently compensated for their work, especially in light of the governor's move to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour for fast food workers. Simply put, the people who perform the noble work of providing around-the-clock care for other human beings, care that keeps them alive and healthy, should receive higher pay. But they cannot get it because the organizations they work for cannot afford to pay it. And meanwhile, the DSPs struggle to make ends meet, in some cases leaving for fast food jobs that pay more. This is unacceptable, especially given the high turnover rates that threaten the quality of care. Although the DSPs did receive a pay increase of 3.25% in January and the same again in April, this is not enough, and we need to continue our work to ensure that DSPs receive fair compensation. The 0.8% COLA was again deferred this year at the behest of the governor, but we'll continue to fight to get it implemented. It's been my privilege and honor to be able to serve the people of the 140th District. My approach of putting people above politics, working toward intelligent, bipartisan solutions, is all the more important in today's divided world. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Our next speaker is Michael Kerns, who is our Republican County Clerk running for re-election.
Good morning. It's an honor to be here today. And I know before the event, I spoke to many of you, and it's the first time that I'm coming here today, not as a New York State Assembly member, but as the Erie County Clerk. I just want to congratulate and let you know, which I know you already know this, but I think it should be told, that this year we had a fight to keep children away from adults. And I want to thank Senator Galvin, and I want to thank the whole Western New York delegation, both senators and assembly people, that saved and voted unanimously to keep children away from adults and to keep the Western New York Children's Psychiatric Center open. I think the Western New York delegation deserves a round of applause. Not only did they save the Children's Psychiatric Center this year after Governor Cuomo vetoed both those bills, they restored funding over $120 million in the past. You have great champions in Albany on your behalf, and they deserve a tremendous amount of credit. So as your Erie County Clerk, I just want to tell you, we have been working with the disability community to upgrade many different things. What I'm most proud of is creating access. We know, and I know as someone that has a family member with a disability, access is very important. On September 20th, we will have another disability awareness outreach at the Eastern Hills Mall where you can come in and we can help you with any type of auto bureau procedure. Also, we have opened up Ready Centers. We're helping our disadvantaged people get through the process, whether it's a non-driver's license ID or any other questions. We are doing that, and that is a service that will be going out through Erie County. I'm very proud to say that we will be announcing a new card for people with service dogs and service horses and animals, where you will be able to go and get a card from the Erie County Clerk's office and be able to use that card, and it will be recognized, so you will not be turned away in a place where you deserve to be. That is going to be a great, great thing. And finally, I just want to say thank you on behalf of everyone here. Direct care, be fair, was very, very important to many different people. On Friday, I visited my brother, and the person who takes care of him on a daily basis was such a good positive person. And I see many of the people here that are working in the industry, whether at the top end or at the lower end. They're very hardworking people, and it's not doing this for a paycheck. They're doing this as a vocation, as a calling. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you as we move forward. We will continue to make the clerk's office the most accessible office in the state of New York. I'm very proud of what we're doing to help people, and I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve as your Erie County Clerk. Thank you so much.
Thank you, County Clerk Kerns. Our next speaker is Senator Bob Ort, incumbent for the State Senate's 62nd District and Republican. Senator Ort.
Good morning. Great to be with you. I want to thank Al, and I want to thank everyone who organized this breakfast for having us. So for the last 4 years, for those that don't know, I represent my Senate district, the 62nd District, which is all of Niagara County, all of Orleans County, and a little piece of Monroe County. But I've also had the privilege to serve as the chairman of the Standing Committee on Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities in the Senate. And it's been the best part of my time in Albany. And over those past couple years, you've already heard about some of the legislation that's been mentioned that we passed, legislation that's encouraged businesses to hire more folks who may have an intellectual or developmental disability. The unemployment rate amongst this population is 70%. Now think about that for a second. 70% unemployment rate. So when we talk about increasing employment, when we talk about improving the economy, we can't talk about that without including folks who may be developmental disabled or differently abled or have an intellectual disability. 70% is unacceptable. And that's why I've pushed and sponsored a change to the preferred source law in New York State. This law was written in the 1970s. In the 1970s, I wasn't even here. I don't mean in the Senate. I mean, I wasn't on the earth. And so a lot has changed since the 1970s. That law should be updated as well, and that law would directly help put more people to work in this community. You've already heard about the direct care. Thanks to the efforts of myself and a lot of my colleagues up here, we got that passed. We got much needed revenue and resources to help retain direct support professionals. But we need more, and most importantly, the governor hasn't committed the full amount in one budget. He hasn't committed to that full rollout. He's doing on a year-by-year situation. What we're asking for is a full commitment. Let's just make the commitment now that money is going to get out to our providers who are doing the work to keep the professionals there who are doing the Lord's work, helping with our individuals who have disabilities. The last issue that I've been working on that I want to touch on is transportation, specifically as it relates to the DDRO in West Seneca. You have a situation where you have a DDRO where you're attracting folks to that, you're encouraging them to go there. It's 3 miles from an active bus route. So the bus route ends, and there's a 3-mile gap between the DDRO and that bus line. Why on God's earth would you put that there today when you want to be inclusive, you want to increase accessibility, you can't do that and have a transportation gap. So we've called on the governor, we've called on OPWDD to increase funding to either move that office or put a satellite office on an active bus line in the city of Buffalo or somewhere where folks can access those services they need. That is long overdue. That should happen today. We're going to continue to make sure and advocate that it does happen. So my time is up. She has the sign up, so I have to go. But it's great to be here with you. It's been a privilege to represent not only my district, but this entire population across New York State. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Senator. Now we're going to hear from Congressman Brian Higgins, the incumbent, U.S. Congressional District 26 and Democrat.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. I will tell you, in the years that I've been here, you should be very proud of one thing. No event gets the participation of so many elected officials of both parties in this one. So you do have a great influence beyond what you realize. I represent this community in the United States Congress. The programs that are federal programs, the Affordable Care Act, which is very important to you, Medicaid, which is very important to you, Social Security, which is very important to you, is determined by what happens at the federal level. And the three of them are all under assault today. The Speaker of the House has said that they're going to have to go after entitlement programs to pay for corporate tax cuts. Because of the advocacy of the developmental disabilities community nationally and right here in Buffalo and Western New York, including all of these organizations, you said no. You said that we depend on Medicaid to stay healthy and to stay independent. And what we want as a society, regardless of what our political affiliation may be, is for you to stay healthy and to stay independent. Within all of our lifetimes, we used to institutionalize people that had developmental disabilities because we didn't know how to deal with them. And we didn't want to deal with it. It was for somebody else to do. But we said we had to do better because the advocates of all of you have challenged us to do better. That's when you had the advent of community residences to incorporate people with developmental disabilities as full citizens in our communities throughout Western New York and throughout the nation. And now we're starting to talk about work, we're starting to talk about transportation to help everybody that is part of the developmental disabilities community to realize their full potential as citizens. We have that obligation to you, to help you to stay healthy and to stay independent. My commitment is to continue that on your behalf. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Congressman. Next, we're going to hear from Luke Jansky, who is the candidate for the New York State Assembly 147th District Democrat. Mr. Jansky.
Thank you very much. Oops, sorry. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here. I apologize in advance that I'm going to have to leave a little bit early, but if you need to reach out to me, you can find the contact information. I'm running for office because I'm sick of the divisiveness of politics today. I'm sick of the politics of anger and fear and division. That brand of politics is unfortunately the norm these days, but it does nothing to serve people and meet their needs. Most certainly not the needs of our most vulnerable and overlooked citizens, our disabled, our seniors, and our poor. My number one priority now, and as an assembly member, is to listen. I cannot possibly know everything about every issue, but I can listen to people, I can connect people, I can help cut through the red tape, and I can make other people listen to those that so often don't get listened to. I'm running a campaign that is about people and not party politics. What have I learned as I've campaigned and listened? I toured the Rural Outreach Center in the town of Aurora and met with their staff to better understand their service area and their mission. I learned that rural poverty in our region is significant. 60% of poverty in Erie County is in our rural areas, where access to services, access to high-speed internet, and access to transportation are all major challenges, challenges that make climbing out of poverty difficult. I suspect that poverty impacts the lives of direct care staff and also the lives of clients and their families. Individuals who care for our children or siblings who have developmental disabilities should make a living wage. Given that nonprofit care facilities are largely state-funded, I would be very interested in working with the Developmental Disabilities Alliance on this issue. I alluded earlier to the issue of transportation in our rural areas. Mass transit is all but non-existent for the people who live in my district. We need to tackle this issue in terms of accessing services and employment. How we approach this needs to be different than what we do in our suburban and urban communities, and most importantly, the residents, workers, and clients in our rural towns must be thought about when policies are being debated or funding is being allocated. Perhaps I'll just conclude by saying that my parents raised me to treat people with kindness and civility. This is something I seek to instill in my own children. The President of the United States made fun of a reporter with a disability. This troubled me greatly because of the message that it sends and the tone that it sets. If elected, I look forward to working with you all, to hearing your stories, to understanding the challenges that you face, and again, I applaud the work you do, as I suspect many of you do it not for a paycheck, but out of a much deeper calling. Thank you for what you do.
Our next speaker is State Senator Patrick Galvin, incumbent from the State Senatorial 59th District, Republican. Senator Galvin.
Thanks, Al. Thank you, everybody. I'm very happy to be here today. I've been coming to visit for 20 years now, and Senator, I was around in 1970, so this change was warranted. I really am happy to be here. Thanks to Donnie and all the member organizations and all of you for the work that you do. And in our representative government, having a loud voice and speaking up and making the elected officials aware of the issues and helping to educate us so we can properly represent you. And I think nothing was more evident than the Be Fair to Direct Care campaign, that the representative government worked and your voices were heard. We have work to do, of course. You've heard from some of my colleagues talking about that. We've got to wrestle the money out of the executive and the budget office to get to the organizations and get to the people who deserve it. And of course, we have to continue and look ahead beyond the first 2 years and look into the future, years 3 and 4 and beyond. But your work is important in speaking up. It was also evident. Mickey Kerns mentioned people's voices and people standing up together and unanimous across the community, unanimous across disciplines, across Democrats and Republicans. And it took a little while, but it ultimately worked. The voices were heard, and the West Seneca Children's Psychiatric Center, the best in the state, one of the best performing in the country, stays where it is. And we know transportation's an issue. Senator Ort and others mentioned the regional office of DDSO and the inaccessibility and the transportation problem in getting there. And again, your voices certainly have been heard by us, and I think now your voices have been heard by Albany. I had a conversation with the commissioner of OPWDD just the other day about 2 different things about that, and then I'll get on to the second one in a moment, and they actually are looking. They're looking at different things. Senator Ort mentioned a satellite office at the very least. That's the first step in the short term as we look towards a long-term solution. It'll only work, though, if your voice, if you continue to participate and speak up. So keep that up. And because we were able to save the West Seneca Children's Psychiatric Center, there's a facility available that it might not be the best, most ideal location, but for very needed services for those with a dual diagnosis that are not available anywhere here in Western New York. They'll now be putting those services here in Western New York to help people and to help families that need it. But if I go back to the beginning, it's only possible if you participate and if your elected officials properly represent you. We only do that because you speak up and your voices are heard. I can assure you, I hear the voice, and I can assure you that I'll keep standing up for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator. Our next speaker is Senator Chris Jacobs, the incumbent, representing the State Senatorial 60th District, Republican.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. It's always a pleasure to come here. I've been coming here certainly last time around when I ran for my first term in the Senate, but previous to that, as the Erie County Clerk, I worked a lot with the DD community there to try to provide increased access. We started having special days at our auto bureaus on a Saturday when it was closed to the general public to provide a calm setting and an organized setting for those in the DD community to be able to come to the auto bureaus to get non-driver identification. And I know Clerk Mickey Kerns is taking that to a whole new level as far as access. I want to thank all those involved with Donnie and the Be Fair to Direct Care effort for helping to educate me in my first term in the Senate about these issues. And I honestly say that in the first term of my time in Albany, the thing I am most proud of is our success with the Be Fair to Direct Care campaign. So congratulations to all of you for all you did on that. I know this is just the beginning. As Senator Galvin said, we have a lot more to do. But I want to tell you that I think what you have done, the success that you have done in the Be Fair Direct Care of raising awareness of this issue. Let's remember, for a very long time during this effort, you had the Assembly on board for the $45 million increase. You had the Senate on board for the $45 million, but the governor was dug in against it. He was dug in and dug in and dug in, and you kept going. And finally, he turned around and said, I'm in for $55 million, not $45 million. So you guys got a different one. But that was a major accomplishment that a lot of people, a lot of cynics up in Albany did not think that you would get there. You got there, and I think it bodes so well for the future for you to continue because you made your voice heard and you raised awareness about this issue and how significant the problem is and how important the job that direct care workers do, and that they should not be struggling to make a choice to go to McDonald's or Target because they will actually make more. And it was mentioned to me that 10 years ago, a direct care worker made 45% higher than a minimum wage. We're now, with our accomplishments, just at level. So we have a lot more to go to get where they deserve for the important role they get. But it started here, it started with you. I look forward to continuing to fight with you to get everything that you deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Our next speaker is Monica Wallace, Assemblywoman from the New York State Assembly 143rd District, Democrat.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me here today. If you remember, we first met 2 years ago when I came here and I said that I was running to be the change that I wanted to see in our community. I was tired of the self-serving behavior of some politicians, particularly my two predecessors before me, because I believe that there are serious issues, and we all understand there are serious issues facing our community, and we need serious people who are willing to roll up their sleeves and work hard to solve those very serious challenges. And nowhere is that more apparent than when we're talking about policies that affect persons with disabilities, policies that affect some of the most caring, compassionate, and vulnerable members of our community. And I told you that I recognized that we had a staffing crisis. We had a situation where direct care providers were working 2 jobs just to get by, and where opportunities at Tim Hortons or Target look more attractive than caring for some of the most, like I said, caring and compassionate and vulnerable members of our community. So I pledged that I would work to make those jobs more competitive and be the advocate that I promised to be in Albany, so that the workers, direct care workers, could earn a fair wage, so they didn't have to work 2 jobs, so that they could feel that they were valued for the very important work that they do. And I'm proud to say that with my colleagues working together, we were able to champion the direct care cause. And I want to thank you for your advocacy in getting that accomplished. We were also able, as my colleague Robin Simmons said, to pass additional measures, the small business tax credit, because we recognize that there was an employment issue sometimes in getting individuals with disabilities employed. So we want to make it more attractive so that everybody in our community has an opportunity to participate. Legislation to help keep people with disabilities safe, a voluntary ID program, so that first responders are made aware of a particular diagnosis and can respond accordingly. Volunteer and confidential registry so that in the event of an emergency or a natural disaster, first responders know where to locate individuals who might face additional hurdles in getting to safety. And and additional training for police so that they know how to respond accordingly when there's and effectively deal with individuals with disabilities. And like my colleagues, I recognize there's more to be done. And I look forward to returning to Albany and again rolling up my sleeves and advocating on behalf of our community. So thank you very much for your advocacy. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Our next speaker is, and if I mispronounce it, make sure you correct me when you come up here, because people need to know the correct pronunciation. It's Carmina Elbahari, who is the Democrat candidate for State Senatorial District 60.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Carmina Elbahari, and this is my first time here. It's my first time running for office, and I'd actually like to thank People Inc. for hosting us. I'm looking at the banners in front, and I realize I've used the Summit Center. I'm a member of Parent Network. In my job, I work with community services. I'm also a parent of a child with disabilities. I should say he's now a young adult, and I understand the struggles we go through when he goes for an interview. I understand the struggles he has in keeping a job. I understand the struggles he has with sensory. I understand the problems he has with access to facilities. I'm his taxi. So my job revolves around taking care of him. I revolve around advocating for him. For 21 years, I've made sure he has what he needs. So I'm looking forward to making sure you have what you need. I'm really good at it. I'm pretty much a bulldog, trust me. I understand facilities are built in locations because they're using state money. And then 2 years later, that public transportation disappears. I understand we need a living wage. We don't need a minimum wage. We don't need prevailing wage. We need a living wage, and that is for our families with disabilities and also the families that are taking care of them, the ones in our nursing facilities. Right now, $11.60 for the caretakers. Are you kidding me? These people are taking care of our loved ones. That is egregious for me. I will fight hard for you, and you know I'm in your corner. I have one at home. And I'm gonna keep this short. I'm running for state senate, and I'm looking forward to representing you in Albany, because you know I have your back, because I've already been the voice for my own children. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Michael Ranzenhofer, the incumbent state senator from the 61st District, Republican.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for inviting me here today. It's great to be with you. My name is Mike Ranzenhofer, and I am the state senator for the 61st State Senate District, which covers the counties of Erie, Genesee, and Monroe. And I've been a state senator for 10 years, and one of the very first things I did as a state senator is I had an opportunity to visit with you in your homes, visit facilities, have you in my office, and learn about the day-to-day struggles that you endure. And looking around at the banners, even to today, 10 years later, I was at Summit last week, taking a tour and visiting with people that work there and people that go there on a daily basis. And one of the things that I've learned is that there are really three priorities that we have to address. One has been talked about quite a bit today, and that is be fair to direct care. I was very proud to be part of a bipartisan effort to increase that over the last couple of years, and now having it implemented, but in my view, that is only a start. There's no way that we can continue to take care of children and adults, people with disabilities, when you have somebody assisting them and 2 or 3 or 4 months later they leave for another paying job or a higher paying job. It's unacceptable, and I pledge to you that we will continue that fight, and we will be successful. There are 2 other issues that I would like to address that I've learned, and these are, including direct care. These are the 2 other priorities. One is dealing with group homes. One of the things that we've seen over the last 10 years is a real de-emphasis on that. And one of the things that I talked to neighbors and friends and even people here this morning is when you get to be a little older and your children get to be a little older, so when your children are adults and your children are 30 and 40 and you are 60 and 70, you need some assistance. You need to be able to have a safe and secure place for your child, now adult, to be able to go. And my pledge to you is to work on that issue, to make sure that we have safe places for the disabled community to go. And finally, the last point I want to make is about employment. One of the things that I've prided myself on doing is I've visited a lot of shelter workshops, and I can't say enough how good it is to see the satisfaction and the pride in people that are able to work for a living and earn a paycheck. And I disagree with the policy that we should do it a different way. I think that is a very, very successful model. I see how happy people are when they are able to get out of their home and be productive in society no matter what they are doing. Thank you, and my pledge to you is to keep up that effort. So again, thank you very much for inviting me here today. It's been a pleasure over the last 10 years to represent the disabled community, and I continue to look forward to doing my very best to continue that job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Our next speaker, Joan Elizabeth Simmons, the Democrat candidate for the State Senate Senatorial 61st District.
Good morning. My name is Joan Elizabeth Simmons. I'm running for the State Senate in District 61. I want to thank you so much for having me today and having this opportunity for me to share my thoughts with you. I'm a businesswoman and a community advocate. I was asked a few months ago what really propelled you to decide to run for office. And probably the answer that keeps coming back to me is those who feel voiceless. A few years ago, I was in an incredible battle for my father. My father has dementia, mild dementia. He's a great guy, 91 years old, and he was being placed in a facility against his wishes, and it was traumatic for him. And I knew that to save his life and to save his decency of quality of life, I had to fight for him. So I entered a battle to become his guardian. Fast forward, Dad is home. He has loving caregivers who truly care for him, and he has a quality of life at 91 that is just amazing and wonderful. We talk about things that stay and live in our hearts. My son, young man, 28 years old, has always suffered with OCD and anxiety disorder. He graduated from Canisius with a physics degree, so he's brilliant and he's blessed with that. 2 years ago, he was injured on the job. Nick suffers with debilitating chronic pain that prevents him from even sleeping. And as a mother, I look at everyone here and we think, what is going to happen to Nick when I'm no longer here? Nick suffers, his mental illness has gotten so much worse because of his chronic pain and lack of sleep. Who will be there? What services are available for our children when we're no longer to help them? We have a wealthy country and we have a wealthy state. We can and must do better. We can and must do better. As a businesswoman, I say, where does our money go? Honestly, if I look at, as a businesswoman and a taxpayer, if I had a choice, would I want my money to go to tax breaks for luxury developers downstate, or stay here for those who are most vulnerable. My commitment is to my community of those who need help. It will always be. As your state senator, I will be there and be a voice for you so you no longer feel voiceless. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Peter Dietz, who is the Democrat candidate for State Senate District 62.
Thank you, and good morning. Our health is everything. Unfortunately, our healthcare system is not what it should be. We're paying too much and getting too little. We pay more per person than any other country in the world, yet our health is near the worst among advanced countries. Why? Because our healthcare system is administered by insurance companies whose only objective is profit. We let these insurance companies make critical life and death decisions for us. Often, the most profitable thing for insurance companies is for us to die. We die unnecessarily from these decisions. We need to follow the lead of most of the world. Get insurance companies out of our healthcare systems. We need a publicly administered healthcare system, a single payer system, Medicare for all, whatever you want to call it. This should be done nationally, but will it happen there? Not now. There is, however, a proposed law in the New York legislature. It sets up a single-payer health care system which covers all New Yorkers. It pays directly all health care with no deductions, no copays, no networks, and best of all, no insurance companies. It will actually cost us less than we are paying now. We're very close to making this a reality. It has passed the New York Assembly. Right now, it's one vote, only one vote short of passing the New York Senate and being on its way to becoming a law. The senator from my district, Robert Hort, has not supported this New York Health Act. He will not even consider it. He must be replaced. This is why I'm running against him, to get that one needed vote. This is a single issue campaign for me. We need that vote. We'll get it by electing me to the New York Senate. I'm on the ballot as the only opposition to Robert Hort. I'm running on the Green Party line. Vote for the New York Health Act by voting for me November the 6th. My Senate district includes all of Niagara and Orleans counties and some of Monroe County. I need your help, people, to distribute my flyers. Take as many as you can give out. There's also a website with detailed information. Its link is at the bottom of the flyer, together with my contact information. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Senator Tim Kennedy, the incumbent, Democrat representing State Senatorial District 63.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is always great to be here. I am so impressed always with the wonderful crowd that you have here. with the incredible amount of support that you get from every single party that cares about our community, the people in our community, both the representatives that have served in government as well as the candidates that want to serve our incredible community in the state legislature and other local governments. I have had the honor to serve in the New York State Senate for the last 8 years, and we've had some great accomplishments together, haven't we? But we have a lot more work to do. And I want to congratulate Donnie for all of the work that you do collectively, all of these amazing organizations that work so hard on behalf of our community, some of the most vulnerable individuals in our community. Some of the greatest work that we've done in Albany has been attributed to your work, coming to the state capitol, creating rallies here, putting the pressure on government to do the right thing by people in our community that are caring for the individuals who we love so much. The parents and the grandparents that fought through the difficult times. We have to make it simpler for you to take care of your loved ones, which is why we have to create housing opportunities for our youth, for our young adults. We have to make sure that that waiting list no longer exists, that if we have young adults that want to live independently, they can do so with dignity and respect, and their parents and their grandparents know that they're getting taken care of, rightfully so. We have to make sure that the commitment that New York State has made to these direct support professionals is maintained. And $55 million was a wonderful addition to the budget that took care of 2018 and the beginning of 2019, but we need to make sure that that funding exists in perpetuity. We shouldn't have to go back to the drawing board each and every year to make sure that those individuals on the front lines of caring for the folks that we love so much are taken care of. That should just be the right thing to do and the common sense thing to do, and it should just be in the budget regardless of the other priorities. That is a priority for our community. And when it comes to transportation issues and employment issues, we've got a lot of work to do, and we've got a long way to go, but we need to celebrate our accomplishments as well. And those accomplishments are only because each and every one of you banded together, fought with us, and got the message out there. And I will tell you, unquestionably, and I think those that are here today will agree with me, that the message to Albany across this state was driven right here out of Western New York. So congratulations to all of you that were a part of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator. Our next speaker is Eric Bowen, the incumbent Assembly member from State Assembly's 142nd District.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for having me here today. Good morning to everybody. I am the newly elected Assembly member from the 142nd District. I have a background with people with developmental disabilities. I spent several years working at Cradle Beach Camp in Angola, New York. I have an undergraduate degree in special education and a master's degree in special education from Canisius College. Before I was elected, I was a special education teacher for 13 years in the city of Buffalo. I've taught every grades from grades K to 6. Since I've been elected, I've been working with the wonderful Stephanie Speaker on a paratransit bill that we're going to introduce in Albany when I return. We had a DDSO walk from my office in the Southgate Plaza all the way to the Western New York Developmental Center, and it was a bipartisan walk. There needs to be changes, and I'm seeing my buddy out there, Craig. You walked with me, buddy, right? We did it all the way. And it's wrong, and we're going to fix it, aren't we? In the 142nd District, I toured many places. People Inc. took me around to the Grace Guest House, senior living on Seneca Street, and the day program on Buffum, I saw firsthand that the workers need a fair wage. And that is what I'm going back to Albany to fight for you. So thank you for having me here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, right next to me here at the table, it's Michael Norris, the incumbent state assemblyman from the 144th district.
Thank you, Al. And I want to thank all of you for your advocacy for this important mission. I remember being elected to the New York State Assembly 2 years ago. And one of my first experiences as an assemblyman-elect was to attend the Donny legislative session in Cheektowaga at the Millennium Hotel. And as I look back upon the last 2 years as a representative from the 144th District, which includes Niagara, Erie, and Orleans County, there are two things that stick out in my mind about the importance of this role as the assemblyman. One was we had some severe flooding along the southern shore of Lake Ontario, and we saw what happened there. But the other experience that will forever live with me was that first encounter with Donnie and listening to the stories and the concerns of those who are affected, our children, our adults, the parents, the grandparents, the agency workers, and it's about priorities. And I want to thank Karen and Barb and the entire committee for that advocacy, and to the Western New York delegation. Because of your advocacy and a bipartisan approach amongst the Western New York delegation, we were able to deliver the $55 million for Be Fair to Direct Care, and I'm so proud of that accomplishment. By working together, by doing it together, but there's much more left to do. And I'm going to tell you, I will work day and night to continue to advocate on your behalf. Also, two other experiences that I remember very vividly. I was with Aspire, and I went to one of the houses, and I saw the worker there who was so tired because he had to work double shifts to make sure that you're cared for. I want to make sure we work very hard to improve the employment opportunities for them, to provide them the care and the time so they can properly care for you. And the other thing is respite care, because our parents and our grandparents oftentimes need a break, sometimes for one night, sometimes to travel to a family wedding in Maryland or somewhere else. And this is something that I encourage the governor and our legislature together to work on, to make sure that we provide that time for those caregivers at home to get the care that they need. I see my time is up. I'm just so honored to represent all of you in the New York State Assembly, and I will continue to fight for you each and every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Our next speaker, Assemblyman Angelo Morinello, the incumbent, representing the New York State Assembly's 145th District, Republican.
Thank you. Good morning. If you notice, there's been one theme throughout this morning from the Western New York delegation. My colleagues, both federally, in the Senate, and in the Assembly, and that is unity. Unity in working towards making your lives better. I cannot be prouder than standing with them. 2 years ago was my first time I came before you, and I talked about think differently. Think differently about your needs, think differently about your abilities. And that message has not gone on deaf ears. The Western New York delegation, we meet and we recognize. But let's talk about some of the issues that have to go forward. We've talked about direct care. Be fair, there's not enough money. The governor came in, tried to be a hero, but the Western New York delegation is asking for more. My colleague Mike Norris mentioned respite. Respite sticks in my mind from that meeting at the Millennium. You cannot get individuals to come and give the family and caretakers a break. You need more. You need help. You cannot continue 24 hours a day without having a personal breakdown. We have housing issues. As our population ages and parents age, what is going to happen to those with needs? If we don't continue to fight for more dollars for caretakers and housing, we're going to go back to the dark ages with our most population that can become the most affected. Now, let's talk about sheltered workshops. The state has eliminated them because they felt it was best to incorporate. They gave some tax breaks. But we still need other sources of income for those that cannot enter the workforce. And we need to get creative. There's redemption centers, and there's a new one, shredding services. There's ways that we can house and grab the talents of the vulnerable ones and use them to bring them into society as we need it. With that being said, I thank all of you for the opportunity to continue to serve you. I thank all my colleagues, and I ask that you allow all of us to remain, because we speak with one voice. We get together. We do not challenge each other. This is the most bipartisan issue that you will ever see coming from Western New York. We are privileged to serve you. We are privileged to be together, and I thank you very much.
Is this your pen? Oh, yeah. I didn't know what yours was.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Next, we're going to hear from Karen McMahon, who is the Democratic candidate for New York State Assembly, 146th District.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Karen McMahon, and I'm running for New York State Assembly in the 146th District, which takes in the towns of Amherst and Pendleton. Thanks. I'm the endorsed Democrat in the race, and I'll also be running on the Working Families and Women's Equality lines. I have never run for office before, but although I'm new to politics, I am not new to government service. I'm an attorney, and I spent almost 30 years as a law clerk to judges of the New York State Appellate Division and the United States District Court. I left the courts in 2016, and I've been in private practice with my husband, Jeff Marcus, who's here. Hi, honey. We represent parents of kids with disabilities in special education matters. When I received this invitation to speak, I was really eager and happy to appear today, because Jeff and I have a very personal connection with People Incorporated. When I met Jeff over 35 years ago, he was a rock guitarist, and he worked at a Canaletian Center sheltered workshop with adults with developmental disabilities. And then shortly thereafter, he took a job with People Incorporated, first at a day treatment center, and then at a group home. And his world became my world. I met his clients, and we socialized with his coworkers, and I was exposed to the issues and challenges facing this community. I was impressed with the professionalism and empathy of the staff who cared for the people in the day treatment center and in the group home, and I was inspired by the people that they served, some of whom had tremendous physical challenges, and others who had heartbreaking personal stories. To me, the goal was to allow everyone to lead dignified and meaningful lives as independently as possible. and everyone did their utmost to fulfill this mission. I was personally inspired as a law student to participate in the clinical course on special education at UB Law School, and Jeff and I were also tour leaders with the vacation program People and Places. They were some of the most difficult vacations we took, but also probably the most fun and satisfying. Jeff then followed me to law school, and he taught that special education clinic as a professor, and then he started his own firm, and with a practice exclusively devoted to special education classes, and then he was nice enough to hire me in 2016 when I left the court system. So my commitment to this community is personal, it's long-standing, and it's ongoing. If I am fortunate enough to be elected to office, I will always advocate for the rights of people with disabilities, including robust funding for programs and services and fair compensation for direct service providers. I thank you for your time. I hope everyone goes out and makes this a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Assemblyman Ray Walter, the incumbent from the New York State Assembly District 146.
All right. Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Donnie. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. My name is Ray Walter, and I'm the incumbent assembly member from the 146th District, including the towns of Amherst, Pendleton, and the village of Williamsville. Over the 7 years that I've been in the Assembly, I've had the privilege of working and getting to know many of you in this room, from the service providers and parent advocates to the self-advocates. Recently, over the last couple of years, we started meeting new people through our red carpet movie screening event, where we've hosted movies for folks who are on the autism spectrum disorder, and we've had some great experiences. And there's nothing better than when a parent comes up to you and says, "Thank you. It's the first time ever I've been able to take my child to see a movie, and you made it happen." And it's just such an inspiration in everything that we do. I have heard each and every one of your stories, many of which are about the struggles that you face every single day. I've heard you frustrated, tired, angry, frightened, but there's always hope and love, caring and concern in each one of your stories. You all inspire me. During my time in the Assembly, I fought side by side with you against the governor's unconscionable cuts to the OPWDD budget, and although many of our victories sometimes seem small and fleeting, we continue to fight because the cause is that important. Through the Be Fair to Direct Care campaign, we have finally won a commitment from the governor to provide funding in the budget to ensure living wages for our DSPs. And even though there's much more to do, I'll continue to fight not only to fulfill that commitment, but to increase it by $75 million. That is what we need. That is what we have to achieve. When 90% of the funding to pay for our DSPs comes from the state, we have a responsibility to ensure those wages are more than just adequate. I know that you cannot continue to lose workers at alarming rates and still provide the services and care that these individuals and families deserve. In addition to assuring you have the care providers and services that you deserve, we also need to make sure that as part of being integrated members of the community, we address the lack of adequate housing and transportation. It's tough to live an integrated life when you have no way to get around. Whether it's for employment opportunities or social and recreational reasons, everyone deserves the chance to experiencing everything our community has to offer. We need to expand paratransit services. We need to make sure that if the NFCA is going to get more money this year in this year's budget, we have to set aside at least 10% of that to expand services to the disabled community. As for housing, we need a multi-year commitment from the state to expand independent supportive housing opportunities. Providing housing for people only when there's an emergency need is not a person-centered approach. As I've said to you in the past, this is not about a lack of money in the state, it's about misplaced priorities. Helping those who through no fault of their own cannot help themselves or just need a little bit of extra help should be the government's core mission. And I will continue to work alongside each and every one of you to make sure our state government gets its priorities in order. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Our next speaker is Assemblyman David DiPietro, the incumbent Republican representing Assembly District 147.
Thank you. Well, first off, good morning, everybody. It's been a long morning, but I want to tell you something that happens only here. This is the only time, and it's a tribute to you, that you will see all of us together. There's no other meeting that we go to. There's nothing else that we do that brings both sides of the aisle together in 100% getting behind your effort. And it's a real tribute to what you do. It doesn't happen all over the state either, but in Western New York here, I've watched it. It's because of you. We all come together. It's because of you that we got a lot of the gains in the last few years. I want to tell you about that. We lost a good member in the Assembly last year, and it's your gain as a county clerk. Mickey Kerns was a phenomenal person. We were good friends up there. So I worked with Mickey, and I want to tell you a little story. Speaker Heastie on the last few days wasn't going to push that bill to keep the psych center open. He told Mickey he wanted bipartisan support, and he wanted everybody around to get on top. Mickey came to me. I ran the co-sponsorships, and in 1.5 days got every member of our conference to co-sponsor the bill to keep that children's psych center open. Then I helped Mickey. We went around and got 45 of his members. That's how that children's psych center, Speaker Heastie put it on the floor, and then the Senate with Senator Galvin put it on the floor, and in the last day, overrode the governor to keep it open. And that's when the governor, then he was going to veto it. And by the grace of God, we know what happened. He had a change of heart, but that change of heart came from what everyone here did to keep that open. And I want to just thank you, because that was something that you don't hear about, but it took some people to work at it. And with that, over the summer, I know Senator Galvin, myself, and Mickey, we sent out, over 100,000 petitions, to sign petitions. We did mailers to tell you and everyone in Western New York to sign that petition, I think to 17 counties. And I want to tell you that because those are stories, the senator and Mickey, that you don't hear about, of people fighting for you. And we do it, and it's bipartisan. And I want to thank everybody. Also, I just want to say that I have a 4-year-old nephew who's developmentally disabled. So I live this every day, as you do. I know the fight. One thing I did this year, took off of what Ray Walter did. I loved it, and held movies for autistic kids and parents and everyone, so they could come and enjoy a movie. We did 2 of them. At our first movie, we had over 90 people. It was a huge success. And as Ray said, it was so nice and endearing when people come up to you and say, thank you for letting us actually go to a movie, because we can't enjoy that. And it touches you like nothing else does. We already have 2 scheduled for next year. So I wanted to say thank you. I'm proud to stand with you. I'm proud to sponsor the bills for equal pay and for safety. God bless you for all you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Our next speaker is Assemblyman Sean Ryan, the incumbent Democrat from New York State Assembly District 141.
Good morning, everybody. So I know we're getting long into the program, but let's start that again. Good morning, everybody. All right. It's great to see a great crowd of people out working together. My background is throughout my adult life, I've been involved with the disabled community. I was an attorney who represented people who were being discriminated against in housing discrimination cases based on their disability. I worked with the Learning Disabilities Association, where I represented children who had special needs and needed programs out of their school district. I've been on the board of directors for autistic services. So I've done a lot of work, and into the government then flows your expertise in working with the community. So let's just count a few of the victories we had. A few years ago, the NFTA was going to do a fare increase and it was the peer advocates from the disabled community who came together and they defeated that fare increase. We know that the lifeblood of the disabled community is public transportation. We're working hard to make sure that public transportation better serves our community. We've been all working together on the Be Fair to Direct Care campaign. We made a deal with the nonprofits a few years ago that we're going to raise the minimum wage. That means we're going to have an increase of salaries that you're going to have to pay to your direct care workers, but we're going to come behind that and we're going to increase your funding. So we've done that, but we want to keep it going. We want to make it so everyone who provides care will have a living wage. There's no reason that people who spend their lives providing services to the disabled should have to live in poverty. That's a broken system. We have to make it so that system, we break it more to make it so that what comes out of it is people who are providing services do not have to live in poverty. That's not the way to go. We've also worked very hard on destigmatization efforts. So once or twice in the last few years, there was group homes being cited in my district, and there was community opposition to them. We worked together to try to take away some of that stigma of why you should support a group home in your community and not be against it. But certainly, you probably join me in all being very disappointed when just not long ago, the President of the United States made fun of disabled people on national TV. That's not how we want to go if we want to lift the stigma against disabled community and to make sure people are integrated into our communities fully. So I'm going to continue to work towards those efforts, but we only have success if everyone in this room works together. So thanks for having me here today.
And thanks, Assemblyman. Our next speaker is Angela Marinucci, who is the Democratic candidate for county clerk.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your participation. My name is Angela Marinucci, and I'm running for Erie County Clerk. This is my first foray into politics, but I am a practicing attorney, and my focus has always been on underserved and vulnerable populations. So this is close to my heart and things that I truly care about. I'm running for Erie County Clerk because I want to be part of a change in our community to make services better for everyone. The main part of my campaign is equal, accessible, and compassionate customer services to all residents. And in doing that, my main platform idea is a health ID program. So right now, there is a non-driver ID program that's already there, and the system has capabilities to add medical health information. Unfortunately, that system is not being used, and that those functions are not being utilized. My daughter has severe food allergies, so as a parent, I would be able to voluntarily give to a non-driver ID the information on her health information so that if she was ever incapacitated or lost, it would be immediately available to first responders. And in expanding this program and offering this health ID to anyone in the county, it would be able to make sure that pertinent health information, whether it be special needs, food allergies, or things like that, are available immediately whenever anyone needs care. So I look forward to speaking to you more and for you to learn more about me. But once again, I'm Angela Marinucci. I'm running for Erie County Clerk, and thank you for your support.
That's it. That just about wraps everything up. But we'd like to thank you for being so respectful. We'd like to thank our candidates for being here and for sticking to their 3-minute limit very closely. So please give them a round of applause. Thank you for being so attentive, courteous to every single one of our candidates. And I have to tell you, as has been mentioned a number of times, the folks here, when they go to Albany, they vote as one group, unanimously. But just so there's no mistake about it, when we talk about issues in Albany, such as keeping the Children's Psych Center in West Seneca open, every single one of these guys supported that. But even beyond that, every single state legislator in Albany, from New York City to Long Island to Buffalo to Albany to Syracuse, every single one voted in favor of that, and it was the governor that vetoed it. But even beyond that, it was your efforts. Those petitions and the lawsuit, somehow or other, they turned the tide, and the governor made an about face on that. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for your efforts. We also want to remind you, December 7th, the Legislative Family Breakfast will be held at the Millennium in Cheektowaga. For more information on that and voting, right over there at the table. Remember to go vote on November 6th, and thank you for being such a great audience.